Hey everybody, just a quick note before we start today's podcast. Today we talk a lot about rates and TVA's fuel cost adjustment. And because sometimes we live in this world, we don't think about the details. So just want to point out that the fuel cost adjustment is a straight pass through to TVA on everybody's power bill. It's a fluctuating rate each month. We don't keep any of that. TVA uses that money to recover costs for fuel costs for generating power, natural gas, coal, things like that. So that is a straight pass through to TVA. Fort County doesn't keep any of the fuel cost adjustment. Welcome, everybody, to Behind the Lines, our July edition. Glad to be here.
Amen. Glad to be back.
And joined by our CFO, Curtis Neyman.
Glad to be here.
And as always, David Kilpatrick is behind the scenes making us all look good.
Thank you for being the wizard, David.
And we are going to talk about heat, because there's really nothing else to talk about.
Ooh, we've had plenty of it, but the grass is dying at my house, so I don't have to mow.
That's good.
But there's some financial impact.
There are some financial impacts, and that's the unfortunate part of all this. So July is started, and it's been hot. We've already set one of the highest peak demands in TVA's history in July.
Yes. And
June was especially hot, right?
Yes. I think we talked about June 13th being TVA's all-time record of 31,311 megawatts produced that day.
That's right.
And John, what was the record you set in June?
So they set 7 of their 10 highest historical peaks.
Wow.
For June. So June was hot. And that's unfortunate because we usually don't get that hot in June.
No.
And so that means summer is off to a really tough start for everybody.
It's usually this hot mid-August, and we're already hitting it in June.
That's right.
I'm thinking it'll leave early this year.
I hope
maybe
you're
by
right.
August, maybe by August we'll be in fall weather.
I hope you're right. But so there's a couple of impacts that heat has on all of us. And part of it is grid related, but a big chunk of it is financial. And so that's the impact to the membership. And we're going to kind of break that down a little bit to understand what that impact is going to be. And unfortunately, it's not a very positive one, but we'll talk about ways that we can mitigate that. There is, and we'll get there. But so first of all, one of the things that we do when it gets hot, and you'll see it during the, hot or really cold, is we have an emergency load curtailment plan that TVA puts out. And this is a historical thing that they've done and other power providers have done for years. It's just part of, best practices.
Yes.
When there looks like there's going to be an extreme demand on the system, you ask people to sort of curtail what's going on.
Step one is we do it internally.
That's
correct?
Right. Step one, we
Before
turn the lights out here.
else.
That's right. So we do some things. All of the 154 LPCs across the valley do some things in their offices to sort of aggregate some demand control there. When it gets to step 2, that's where we ask for voluntary help from the public, right? So we say if you can bump your thermostat up or turn your lights off, great, because every little bit helps.
Yeah, shift your dryer, washer, dishwasher loads to after 8 p.m.
That's right.
Basically.
Or weekends. If you can just get it out of that energy-intensive time, and of course for summer, that's from 1 o'clock basically to about 7 o'clock in the evening is those peak demand times. So we do that, and then there are several other steps, that would be taken in super emergency situations. Yes. We very rarely, I don't know that we've ever gotten any higher than maybe a 30 as far as I can remember.
Yeah. In my career we have, but if it got much higher than that, we could start asking commercial loads to ratchet down.
That's right. So there are some bigger item things that would happen at that point.
I think TVA's infrastructure and our infrastructure is in such a good position, I don't see that happening.
No, and what they want to do is just not put us in a position that we are subject to one of those perfect storms where
Correct.
A bunch of stuff happens at one time and then we're left hanging for a couple reasons. One is obviously you want to generate enough power. But TVA also has, I think it's 15% of their generation that they have to keep in reserve for times like this. Yes. So there's already a built-in cushion there that we haven't gotten to.
And contrary to popular demand, this is not caused by electric vehicles.
No, it's not caused by electric vehicles yet. And so that is something we're going to have to build more generation to because hopefully load will continue to grow,
Yeah,
right? Because
yes.
load growing means a strong economy
Yeah. And
because
sorry
people
if
are
I
doing
bumped
things.
this. You may want to talk about this later in the podcast, but I think the assumption is most people will charge their vehicles through the night,
That's right.
so it'll kind of be off-peak load time.
That's right. It'll actually be good load.
And the other saving grace is I don't see us all going out buying EV cars today.
No, that tipping point is a long way off,
Yeah.
and I think the infrastructure will be there long before
I
the
believe so.
demand gets
I
there.
believe
So,
too.
anyway, we got a little off track, but let's go back to so.
I'm good at
No,
that.
that's my bad. ELCP and the heat and all the demand. So there's two components in that. One is we talked about grid stability. The second is financial. And y'all, being accountants, talk about what that impact is. Why cutting down your use can help us in the future
Curtis,
financially.
we got the pro in the room.
I wouldn't go as far as pro, but you know, TVA, they're gonna use their cheapest generation first, right? I mean, that's kind of what supplies the base load. You're talking about nuclear and coal, things like that. And when they need more generation, as they ratchet it up, they have to turn on their more expensive, methods of producing it. So I think, it's the emergency load curtailment program, but the emergency is maybe a little bit misleading. It doesn't necessarily mean it's an emergency when they ask you to curtail it a little bit. What they're trying to do is not get into those upper tiers of production where it costs more for them to produce. Because if it costs more for them to produce, that cost gets passed down to us, and then it gets passed down to the members as well. So really, they're just asking you to, if possible, and it's all voluntary until you get into some of those upper tiers, if possible, shift some of your usage and whatnot. Help us save you money.
That's right.
Is the
But then
thought.
someone would ask, but my rates are fixed. How does this impact my rates? Why does this? Because you don't change my rates. They don't change from month to month, but they kind of do.
They kind of do, and that they change from season to season. It's the way TVA does it. We have a summer, winter, and transitional seasons, and so they'll change there. But they do change. The fuel cost component is what changes from month to month, and the fuel cost is where TVA recovers their cost of the fuel that they need to produce the load.
It doesn't go to vehicles. So
It does
it's-
not go to vehicles. But I can see why people would think that.
Yeah.
It's, you drive down the road, you can't help but notice. So if y'all are good with it, that's a good kind of segue into what we were going to talk about with fuel costs.
Yeah, go ahead.
You see it every day. We all see it, how much fuel costs are going up. What we usually see is gas, fuel at the pump. What I think people see less of is the natural resources, your natural gas, coal, things like that. They're also going up. And so if TVA has that increase in cost, they have to recover it, and that gets passed to us, which gets passed to our members. You'll see a chart up on the screen here. I wanted to go back about 1 year and look at the what's changed with fuel costs. If you go back to June of 21, our fuel cost adder was 1.87 cents per kWh. Fast forward to July of 22, that number is 3.83 cents per kWh. That's a 103% increase in a little over a year. So obviously, anytime something increases by that much, I think your average member is going to feel it. We feel it, and it's one of those things. We hope it comes back down. Hope it comes back down soon. But right now, you don't see an end in sight to it.
Yeah.
We hope that changes, but on your average residential bill, that probably amounts to about $30 a month more that they're paying now as opposed to what they were paying last year. So it's real money,
Yeah.
and people feel it.
It is.
And that compounded with what y'all were talking about, the record-setting usage in June. There's going to be some higher bills for that month.
And Curtis, I also heard, you talked about the generation mix of TVA and how they use the cheapest option first, which is nuclear. And nuclear's easy, it's a maintained flat load, right? So it's the cheapest one to do.
Mm-hmm.
They use it first, they ratchet up to the next one's probably being natural gas.
Mm-hmm.
Well, natural gas has tripled in cost in the past month or two, recent past.
Right.
That's probably a big factor in driving this. And it's not all bad. And what I mean by it's not all bad is years ago, fuel costs for TVA to generate was figured into the base rate. And any business covering all their costs in base rate have to account for fluctuations. Now, I know we feel it right now during the summer months of fuel costs going up, but there's also a benefit for when it's low, we save money. I think TVA, along with Fort County and other people I see, are aligning their costs with their sales and trying to match them up. And I think that's what this fuel cost is trying to do. We're trying to recuperate the cost that we incur to generate this.
Mm-hmm.
You could put it in your flat rate and people wouldn't feel the fluctuation, but they'd be paying too much.
That's right. Yeah, because if you're TVA, you're looking at it, and that is an option, put it in a flat rate, but you have to make sure you don't under recover.
Correct.
And so by nature, you have to set it too high just to account for that, variability in it. I like the system they have. The fuel cost piece of it is out of their control, and that's where the curtailment program comes into play. If they don't have to burn, say, natural gas as much, they don't have to pass that cost through to us and to the
Correct.
members, and that's where they're asking for help on it. It's not a grid stability thing or anything like that. It's just trying to be efficient.
That's
I think
right.
it's a good time to talk about too how we bragged for years that there have been no rate increases due to Fort County. So what the members pay on their bill, about 70 to 75% of that bill goes to TVA for generating the power.
That's right.
And we talked about a portion of that being fuel costs, which is a variable change month to month. But that still hasn't changed Fort County's standpoint of there's been no rate increases due to Fort County, which is about 30% of what the members' bill is, and those fixed costs, because Fort County's made a lot of good business decisions to mitigate that,
That's correct.
especially in a time frame of inflation, fuel costs. I mean, we're seeing a lot of costs internal going up, but because of the
Absolutely.
business decisions that we've all made the past few years, we're not having to raise rates.
Yeah, we were talking about that the other day. If you're at home and you walk outside and you see that transformer hanging on your pole, that transformer cost $700 a year ago. Now it's $1,500.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like we can just stop buying them or put it off. I mean, if people need power,
Correct.
if one goes bad, we have to have it. And right now we're just incurring that cost.
Well, I mean, I filled up my personal truck this weekend. I already had a quarter of a tank of fuel in it. It cost me $99 to put 3/4 of a
Yeah.
tank of gas in it. So everybody feels it there.
That's right.
Compound that with the business model. We have 200 pieces of equipment at Fort County. We're a big co-op. We serve parts of 9 counties. Our gas bill has gone up exponentially because we have 200 pieces of equipment. But because we've made good financial decisions in the past, we don't see a need for a rate increase. It's not that we've been overcharging in the past.
Correct.
We've just made wise decisions to mitigate a rate increase.
Yeah, if you look back over our last 3 years, we have rate studies. I don't want to get into all the detail of that because it's just too much. But we did a rate study 2 years ago, and when they came back and did the rate study this year, one of the big epiphanies that came out of it is that our operating costs have not grown. Now, yes, our cost of doing business has grown, but we've made cuts in other areas to where at the end of the day our
Yeah.
operating costs haven't grown, and so that's why we don't have to have a rate increase. The fuel cost is going to go up. There's nothing we can do about that. The fuel cost to the member on the member's bill. And that does increase your bill, yes, but the baseline rate from Fort County hasn't increased in 5 years.
And that operational cost is what we can control.
That's right.
Yes.
And we've done a terrific job of keeping
we
that in, and so again, we've managed to, things could be a lot worse. You hate
They
to say
could.
that.
Like, and look, if you just look at history, there will be a time in the future at some point, whether it's next year or 10 years down the road, where we will have to have a rate increase. That's just natural, right?
Yeah.
But our philosophy is do incremental, often rates if you have to, and we don't see the need to do that right now because of the work everybody, all the employees, the board of directors have done at Fort County. We changed our insurance plan. We've lowered headcount. We've done a lot of things, tightening our belt over the last 5 to 10 years to put us in this good position. So kudos to the employees. Y'all have done a great job.
And so again, we're trying to hold the cost down here because we understand the bottom line, and we can throw a lot of numbers and we can talk about why, but the bottom line is, as Curtis said, it's going to be about a 30% increase on folks' bill, and that's probably going to be the same for the next couple of 3 months.
Oh yeah, I would think so, especially since we're already in this heat of summer and we're 2 months ahead of schedule for how hot it should
Yeah.
be.
I don't think TVA is in a position where they can really ramp down.
Yeah.
You know, they can't.
And we're all using more electricity.
That's right.
Absolutely.
So we will see more ELCPs, and we will ask folks to cut, their use. And my suggestion, I think you guys would agree with me, is that folks should just do that as a matter of course for the next few months. Just anything you can do to sort of cut back on your electric use, do it, because,
It makes financial sense for yourself too.
Exactly.
And, some co-ops have moved to a time of day rate for the residential, which we don't have right now. We may in the future. And that might be a cost incentive to the member to shift stuff to after hours to
That's
save
right.
money on their bill.
Well, it used to be like when we had early calling plans, right?
Yeah.
Nights and weekends. They wanted you to make your calls on nights and weekends because nobody was using it then. So
Man, you're going old school.
Yeah.
I am going very old school, but I think that's going to be kind of how we see it, because
can see
they
that.
make. We talked about the base load. I don't want to get too much in the weeds, but you guys talked about the base load. They're making power all night long at a certain level, and it's just not being used, and you can't store it right now.
That's right.
So you might as well use it, and they make it worth your while. TVA does. They charge you a lot less to use it in the middle of the night because
Yes.
it's free power, basically. So, so all of that sort of adds up to, at some point, we'll probably have some time of use where they will incentivize us to do our laundry at midnight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that might not work for everybody, but, again, you do what you can. So let's talk about what we can do maybe to mitigate a little bit of this heat-related stuff. So, again, we have some programs here that can help. We've got our residential energy services program, which we can come out and do an audit of your house, look for places that, you can do some larger things, insulation, those sorts of things, new HVAC, that can help you be a little more efficient. But there are just some basic things around the house that we all need to do, and we talked about a little bit about that. I think it's the rule of thumb is 3 to 5% you save every degree that you turn your thermostat up. That's your biggest driver.
Yes.
And then lights and cooking and the energy intensive stuff. Not only
Insulation.
insulation,
Weather
weather stripping. If you see light outside through your door, through your
Yeah.
windows, you got to caulk that stuff up. And it's not hard to do. You can go buy a can of caulk or
Yes.
a foam.
But it makes a big difference.
Makes
It
a
does.
huge difference. So anything you can do along those lines. Daylighting is a simple thing. So if you have windows where the sun comes in during the day, close the curtains.
Yeah.
And don't let the sun come in and heat the house up. That's another good reason to move your cooking, especially late afternoon, because if you're cooking on the oven, what happens?
Yeah.
Ooh, you're touching a nerve now, John, because you're messing with food. But yeah, oven is a huge consumption of electricity, right?
And it heats up the house too.
Yes.
So it makes that air. Your air conditioner's already working hard because it's been working all day. You're talking about the hottest part of the day, and now you're adding oven heat.
And I've heard a lot of people say that. Now, you want me to move the air conditioner? I got to be comfortable now.
And that's a choice, right? That is a
Yes.
personal choice. You be as comfortable as you want to be, but understand that when you have that house at 68 or 70, your air conditioner is running all the time,
Yeah.
and that's going to reflect on your bill. So,
Yes. And, to John's point, John, you mentioned a lot of energy saving programs we have. We strive to be your energy provider and the place you go to when you have questions. If you want us to do an energy audit, John has a team that can do that. If you're curious about solar or EVs, reach out to us. We want to educate you. After all, our members own us.
that's right.
If you want to inquire about something, call us. We'll
That's
work
right.
with you on it.
And if you want to talk about your bill, we certainly will. Now, I will say, so when we talk about the fuel cost adjustment, all of that is posted on our website under our rates every month. So whatever that number changes to, and it does fluctuate monthly, that's put out there along with all of the other charges that are on a bill. Typically, we break those out.
Yes.
So you can see that every month on the website. And get an idea there. But we have a lot of tools on the website as well, calculators and whatnot, kind of help you see where you're using energy.
You've done a good job on the website.
I
It's very
appreciate that.
user friendly. So I encourage everybody to go look at it. You'll find out some neat stuff about Ford County you may not have already known.
That's right. And as Brian said, if you have questions, if you have issues, call us. We want to help. There may be some things that we can't do, but we will work with you, and we'll try to find the best resolution to whatever your issue is. So, well, I guess that's all we've got this month. It's a lot.
It is. I'll wrap it up with a couple of things.
Sure.
One, I want to remind everybody our mission is to improve the quality of life of all those that we touch, and we're doing that in so many ways, right? Or County, we're providing electricity, right? We're here when storms hit. We're here to put power back on. Our recent broadband adventure, which everybody knows of, if you're interested in it and you hadn't told us you want it, please reach out. The not-for-profit arm, the 4 County Foundation, we give a lot back to charities and our organizations. We've given back, what, 1.6 million?
Yeah, 1.7, close to 2 million now.
So we're doing a lot of things for you, our community members. So I just want to remind you of that. We love serving you. It's a great organization. Thank y'all for being a part of 4 County. And remember, times are tough. If you watch the news, you'll get depressed, but God is still in control. We love you.